Welcome back. Time now for Behind the Badge. Over the last week, we saw hundreds of volunteers line the streets, combing through the streets, joining police to help find missing 2-year-old Amari Nicholson. Now that case has turned into a homicide investigation, but it does open questions on how police go about finding a missing person. This morning, we are joined now by Sergeant Miguel Garcia. Good morning to you.
Well, good morning, Alyssa, and thank you for having me. And yes, and we want to thank everyone that participated in the search for Amari and trying to get clues and information on his whereabouts and what actually happened to him. But it just goes to show you how difficult this job can be at times, trying to figure out. This started as a missing person, like we mentioned before, and it turned out to be a homicide. But us going through the investigation process was extremely difficult because we have little information of what happened. And trying to get information was really hard for us in this case, but it just shows the dedication that our detectives and our police officers have with the relentless follow-up to try and solve this case, to bring some closure to the family.
And how do you guys go about that? I know in this case, Amari's whereabouts, it was being lied about. He was murdered, but you guys and the community was being told that he was missing. So how do you go about that when you're not really sure, is this a missing persons case or is this a homicide case?
Well, from an onset from this type of investigations, we go with what is given to us. So we have to look at every single piece of information that is given to us, and we go with it as far as we can. Now, when we start realizing that there's some inconsistencies or something is not right, we start bringing in the experts in other fields and try and determine and work in collaboration with all detectives to try and determine what do we have, where do we go with this case, and we start building our case little by little. But at the end of the day, we get to the bottom of it, and we finally figure out what exactly it is that we're looking at, so that we can start building our case.
And talk to me about the process for the missing person unit, because it is missing persons unit, because it's not every case where you see the community join in on the effort. Is that at the request of Metro, or is that usually all volunteer effort?
But when we have a case, for instance, when it comes to missing persons, when we realize that as a child, someone under the age of 18, we throw all the resources that we have at the case. It doesn't matter if it's partners from the community or if it's Metro-wise. We end up doing major case protocol, and we reach out to everyone and anyone that's willing to help us. So in this situation, we were helped by Nevada Child Seekers, and they were able to go out and provide some of that support. But in all missing person cases, we always try to evaluate what is the need, how many resources we need for such cases. Like I said, for a juvenile, we're going to throw everything we have at it so that we make sure that we have a conclusion to it.
And, this case really gripped the community. I mean, Amari was only 2 years old, and that's got to take a toll emotionally on the officers as well.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that we don't get to see too often. All we see is the case developing in the media and maybe with the information that we're providing, but we don't get to see that human emotion from the officers. What are they feeling? What are they thinking? Most of us have kids. Almost a lot of people at home right now watching this are thinking about their kids and what would happen if something happens to one of their kids, God forbid. But the detectives are human, and they're out there doing their jobs every day. And perfect example on this, Alyssa, is the fact that we couldn't find Amari's body after a few days, and we knew what happened to him. But the detectives didn't give up. They went back, they looked at all the evidence that they had, and they tried to narrow it down, like, where is Amari? And they couldn't go home thinking that they hadn't found him yet. So they went back and they were able to locate him, and that gave them a little bit of closure. And a little bit of closure for the family is always a good thing as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, just an update, Amari's body was found, and a suspect made his first court appearance yesterday. So Sergeant Miguel Garcia, thank you so much for joining us and explaining these cases just a little bit. Just such a sad ending to this one.
It is, and thank you for having me, and you guys have a good day.
You too. And if you at home have a question for Metro, please send us an email to behindthebadge@fox5vegas.com.